Okay, here we go. Roland D-50, one of the most legendary synthesizers in the history of the world. This one is responsible for a lot of the music that was produced in the late 80s, in the 90s, and up to our days. I was not going to make a video of the repair I did for this one, because there are like 100,000 million videos of the D-50 in the internet. However, when I was done, there was a couple things that I thought perhaps I should have made a video of, and I actually need to take it apart again because I made a mistake that I just realized when it was closed. So I'm gonna fix that mistake, and I'm gonna show you what it is so you don't make the same mistake that I did. And I'm also gonna show you that one other thing that I think it can be of value. So I say one thing, it's actually a few things. I guess the first thing I want to show you is protect your joystick and protect your pitch bend. When you shop for a Roland D-50, one of the things that you find over and over and over is that the joystick is broken, or the pitch bend is broken, or the joystick is broken. And the reason for that is, in the case of the pitch bend, this is how you control the pitch, right? But if you push it like in that direction, you can actually also control modulation. And when the synthesizer is old, these plastics are more brittle, and if you push it from here, you can break it. So if you want to use it for modulation, push it from the bottom like this. Now the other reason they are often broken is because technicians who couldn't care less, they just flip it over, put it on a table, and start working on them, and that breaks the pitch bend because it's protruding proud of the synthesizer panel. All the other synthesizers that I've worked on, they have a wheel, a pitch bend wheel. The D-50 does not. The D-50 actually has a kind of lever, that thing that protrudes from the surface. So protected. What I did was I just taped tape rolls on those pieces, so when I flip it over, the weight of the keyboard will rest on the tape roll and not on the wheel. I'm sorry, not on the pitch bend lever or the joystick, right? And the joystick, just push it to one side so it hides below the tape roll. Okay, thing number 2, I think. When you work on these old synthesizers or keyboards or any old device for that matter, what happens is other people has already worked on them before. I mean, in like almost 40 years of this keyboard, I'm sure it has been taken apart a few times. And the problem is when technicians couldn't care less, they take the screws off, and then when it's time to reassemble the synthesizer, they just put the screws wherever they want. And when you do that, you destroy the threads of some of the screws. You find that others are loose and you have to replace with new screws or bolts. And at the end of the day, what happens is pretty much every screw in the keyboard is different. And you at this point in the life of the synthesizer, you want to just put the screws where they were in the first place, or you will do further damage to the synth. So what I do is I label every screw and bolt on the synthesizer, and then I use a little box like this. This is very inexpensive, and I labeled the bottoms of each compartment with a number, and I will put every screw in the number where it belongs. Okay, the lid is off. In the inside I labeled the screws with letters instead of numbers, for no other reason than I thought that would make it more difficult to mix the screws. I have another box of this that I labeled with letters. I ran out of letters and I used the Greek alphabet. So I'm gonna take off the screws from the inside and put them in that box. So just quickly here in the inside, this is the master. This is the main PCB of the D-50. This is where the magic happens. That's where the battery is. I did not change the battery. If you change the battery, you need to reinstall all the sounds, and this one seems to be doing good, so I'm gonna leave that for when it's actually needed. On this side, that's the pitch vent, and that board over there, that's where the volume and the aftertouch potentiometers are. I cleaned both were dirty, so before this second disassembly, that's one of the things I did. I cleaned those potentiometers. This time I'm not going to take that PCB off, and what we are going to have to do is we are going to have to take the keyboard off in a minute. Okay, all the screws are off. Now you need to disconnect the electrical cables where necessary. So one of such connections that you need to remove or disconnect is this. So very carefully you pull. Right. And the other one is here. This one is very important, very delicate. That's the aftertouch sensor. So you just pull it. It's just like this, and you put it back the same way. Sorry for the camera, but yeah, it's off now. Now what we want to do is we carefully remove the keyboard, the keybed, that is. Alright, and I'll show you lesson learned number 3. So you leave this very carefully, and then you can lift the keybed. So we are going to rest the keybed on my sofa like this, right, while I work in the rest of the keyboard or move it to another place. But you have to be very careful to not rest it on this side, because that's where this little very fancy aftertouch sensor strip is. So you can rest it, no problem, like this, but on the other side. Then I just move the rest of the keyboard here. The tape rolls doing their job. Okay, the keyboard is off now, and I will tell you what was my mistake. You can see the keyboard has obviously white keys and black keys, and as you can see, the anchor point for the black keys spring is closer to the chassis than the anchor point for the white keys to the chassis. So I thought, well, the black key spring needs to be shorter than the white key spring, but that's not true. The white key spring is actually shorter than the black key spring. So the spring for the black keys is the long one, and the spring for the white keys is the shorter. And I just put them the other way around. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove all the springs, and I'm going to install them in the right order. It's actually very easy. You just take them like this, pull, and that's it. So here you can see a difference. It's small, but it's obvious. Here we have three springs, three short springs or white key springs, and one long spring, which is the one that belongs to the black keys, right? Some of the keys have lost little damper that goes in that silver tab there. I mean, this key here has the damper. You can see that black ring around the silver tab, and this one doesn't have it. It's a piece of plastic or rubber, and some of the keys have lost it with the years. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use heat shrink, right? How many colors? I'm going to use this pink one just for fun, and I'm going to make a damper for the keys that are missing it. Okay, I almost did all the keyboard. All the springs are in place, except for that last little bit more than an octave. So I'm gonna show you this D-50 keyboard. I mean, it's very easy to disassemble. There are no tanks to bend, there are no little tabs to flex that can possibly break. You just remove the spring and pull it forward, and that's it. Now let's disassemble this, and we are going to set the keys in the back in order, because you cannot, I mean, every key is different. Not the black ones. The black ones, I think you can mix and match them, but not the whites. The whites are all different. You can install a C key in the place of another C key, but you cannot install say G in the place of D, and you would think, hey, but it's the same, right? I mean, they both have black keys to the sides. Well, they are different. I mean, you can see the G key is I mean, this notch is larger than this, and on the D key both notches are the same, and this is foolproofed by Roland, because these tabs in the back, this is the keys have a key that is supposed to fit here, right in the back. That's how you assemble. All these bars at the back, they have different widths, so you will not be able to install one key for another. But if you keep the order, that will save you a lot of time. When I first took the entire keyboard apart, I labeled the keys so I would know where to install them later. Now let me tell you about the aftertouch on the D-50. This is the aftertouch sensor. It's essentially a felt strip, and below this felt strip there is this polymer resistive polymer. It's actually conductive, right? It's a white stripe of polymer. When you press it, it changes its resistance. So what it does is, it underneath there is this strip of carbon tracks. This is zero resistant carbon tracks. And what happens is, when you press this white stripe against these carbon tracks, the resistance changes, and then you have a different resistance between the carbon tracks. So what happened to this synth is, the resistive polymer is not working anymore. It just doesn't change its resistance, or doesn't conduct at all, and therefore the keyboard had lost all the aftertouch. So what I did was, I applied strips of paper where I had applied heavily many layers of pencil. And I tried many different materials, and this is what worked the best. It's a paper strip with pencil, and then you have to kind of roll it a little bit so it's concave on the pencil side, and then you apply it this way, and that worked. The keyboard now has aftertouch, and this was the fix that I found for it. Okay, so here is the D-50 back together. It's on, and I'm gonna play one chord here, and as I press harder, that's the aftertouch. The keyboard didn't do that before. So that's one of the things that we fixed with that pencil on paper technique. So what I'm gonna show you now is how to put new sounds in the keyboard. I have this old Windows 7 computer, which is what I use for the old keyboards. Many keyboards have a hard time being read by newer computers, and the programs that are available for these old synths many times do not work in newer computers. I didn't honestly try on a new computer, but this is what I'm using because it's very small, and it fits in the flat areas of the synth. So I found this program in the internet. It's called D-50 Librarian. So I'm gonna run it now. Alright, so it runs. When it runs, I'm going to set the D-50 in receive mode, right? So what I do is I press on this button, turn function, and then it's protect, it's on. So I click on that, and with the joystick I made it off. Alright, and now I go to this button, MIDI, and I go a couple pages, then it says exclusive on. It has to be in on. If it's not on, then you can make it on with the joystick again, but it's on now, so that's what we want. Alright, and now we click on this button here, data transfer. Alright, data transfer. So what you get when you press data transfer, and then we click on B-load, which is short for bulk load. Are you sure? We click on enter, and then the keyboard is left waiting. All right. Now let's go back. Let's go to the computer. There is a warning here: failed to update. It never updates even if the computer is connected to internet. So I just click accept, and we're going to open one of the millions of sysx files that you can find in the internet. I have some in the desktop, right? And Roland D-50. I have the D-50 patches, for instance. I have many there, but I'm gonna select this one, factory patches. So I'm going to return the D-50 to factory settings. So I open the factory patches, and it's opening the computer. So what I have to do now is I have to transfer to the keyboard. So before you do that, you have to make sure that the MIDI ports are configured, right? Input and output needs to be your MIDI interface, right? By the way, you have to have a MIDI interface. I have a MIDI interface. It's connected there at the MIDI ports. These plugs are labeled in and out. So the in goes to the out port and the out goes to the in port of the D-50. And then it goes and connects to the computer via USB. So that's done. So now I go tools, send data to D-50. I'll leave all of this by default. MIDI channel is 1. The synth also has to be in MIDI channel 1. You can configure that in the MIDI menu. And then the delay. This is very important because you have to find the right delay for the program to work with the D-50. If it's too fast, the D-50 will not read it. So 100 milliseconds is enough for me, I found. So I click send. So it starts the process. You get a progress bar there at the bottom, right? We're going to wait, and it says completed. All right. So we got back to the D-50, and it still says waiting. So that's a bug. All right. You can just hit exit. It says cancel or canceling. It apparently has the same sound that it had before. Got to be overtime. However, let's select 24 again. The sound 24, 24, and you see it's a new one. It's synth X1. All right. It's different. A little bit of aftertouch as well. And I'm realizing this is not really the standard factory patch of the D-50. It's probably one of the aftermarket cartridges that D-50 that you could buy for the D-50. But anyways, it works for the demonstration. I'll install the factory patches later. And that's it. This is the Roland D-50